FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's on your mind Tuesday? Streaming on WOVU.org and 95.9 FM. And don't just listen, jump in and be What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell Radio Show. What's on your mind Tuesdays? Call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go.
None other than Dr. Heather E. Burton. Yes, Ms. Burton is here today. She's on time and ready to rock today.
Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic
I know, and never might went no, but that's all right.
Call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.
I got a sidebar.
And hit us up on
you
social
know, my
media.
mom just said to me that her and my brother were having a conversation about my lateness.
Oh.
And they called it that I didn't know how to time manage.
Oh.
And I disagreed because I do great with time management. The problem is I try to do too many things before I have to be somewhere.
Yes.
Because I don't like outstanding projects or stuff not done to come back to. That makes sense. Like if it's dishes in the sink, I'm gonna wash the dishes. It might make me 3 minutes late.
But isn't that the definition of time management?
I don't know, because I feel like I accomplished so much.
I don't know.
Another thing, like you are busy putting so many marks next to your to-do list that's pretty extensive, and you're trying to get it down, but you like, I'm already here. I'll knock this out right now.
Right.
And that's what I do.
Off your time management.
Yeah,
It goes off your time management.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can accept that.
And here's the worst one. You look at the clock and you say, oh, I'm only 20 minutes away. I can get there in 20 minutes.
I can get there in 20 minutes. And then you run into traffic and you're like, oh, I knew I should have left
mad at
earlier.
everybody that's in your way trying to get there. Why are you stopping? What you ain't turning quick enough? That's how it always goes.
It does.
Unicorn, why we got you on the mic here today? Any updates? What's happening in the hood? I tell everybody she is on the radio.
That's our hoodologist.
That's our hoodologist. She
Our
on the radio
hoodologist.
more than anybody on this station.
That's
so
great.
she
I really
knows
don't think, like,
everything
I be
that's going
outside.
on. What's outside,
I
man?
don't
What's
be like
going
outside
on?
like that. Like I be outside with the community. I don't be outside with the
The outsiders.
Yeah,
With the outsiders.
Yeah, I don't be with the outsiders. No.
Anything happening we should really be paying attention to, you think?
Man, it's a lot going on. And if you are getting into business, if you are a business owner, a small business, look, it's a lot of grants that are opening. It's a lot of grants that just closed. There's a lot of money running around Cleveland right now, and especially going into, what we like to call the end of the year, which is like sometimes the mid-quarter for a lot of organizations, especially people that's giving away money. So if you have something of that nature going on and you need to utilize other people's money, do your research because there's a lot of it going around.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's giving away money these days.
Martin just did a campaign with grants for DJs and culture curators, basically culture curators, excuse me, the ones y'all play. I am. I be in the hood.
I don't know, because you got the deeks on Remy Martin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Ricky Martin doing obviously, something.
I just been looking for the grants. I'm not looking for the okay, not in these streets. Ain't nothing out here, man. I heard the pool is pretty shallow these days. Is that true, Doc? Because I hear you complaining too sometimes.
What pool are we talking about?
Yeah, are you talking about the dating pool? The dating pool. They're both of those pools. They both shallow.
I don't know. The money pool, I don't think it's as shallow as people are acting like it is. But the dating pool, yes, definitely, it is dry.
Yeah, the dating pool is another. That's a whole nother show. Join us for Sanctified and Stilettos, where we will jump into dating. I will have you as a guest.
Because I got something to say about these young men in my age group. I don't know what's going on.
We will talk about it. But I was going to say, one of the things that you did say, Uni, that's important for our listeners to realize, too, is that there is money. But it's knowing where to look. Exactly. And so it's that access of understanding how we go about finding grants, where to look. And so one question I'll ask you is, how do you stumble upon these grants? Where do you find them?
Chat. I've been looking on Chat GPT for a lot of things.
Wow.
Chat has been answering a lot of my questions that I've been having questions that nobody seemed to wanted to give me the answers to, just
I
because
hear
they
you on
didn't
that.
want to see how
Yeah.
great I
Yeah.
actually am.
Right.
And that's all right, because Chat
Right.
is my friend.
That's what
Yeah.
Okay. And
Chat
I
has actually
have
become my
my
friend.
side.
Now, Chat was not my friend
I was like that
when,
too.
and especially from the teaching lens.
Right.
Because all I thought about with Chat GPT
Mhm.
and these AI things is students plagiarizing.
Right.
And so I had to get beyond that and really understand the information and what the information at our fingertips, resources, also being able to pull from different sources. Because I know I use Chat, and when Wikipedia comes up as one of the sources, I'm like, okay, well, let me find the source underneath that maybe a little bit more scholarly than Wikipedia than somebody
Right.
changing.
Mhm.
But I think I'm with you, is that I have become a little more friendlier towards Chat than I was
Absolutely.
initially. Now, I'm not back in the classroom, so I don't know how I'm going to feel.
And I think the reason is because you guys understand how to use it. See, before everybody was a little, and people say this all the time. They're like, "Oh man, Chat GPT and AI is going to take your job." I'm like, "No, AI is not taking your job, but the guy who know how to use AI,
Yes.
oh, he's going to take your job."
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he don't have to be no college scholar. He can be a 13-year-old kid who knows how to prompt it, knows how to give you what you asked him to give. Now, what he gave you, if you don't know what that's mean, you know what I mean? That's something different. But at least he's going to be able to give you that.
Right.
And to your point, Uni, and us who does use it, is always, I use it as another form of my think tank. Before, where I used to have all of you guys around to kind of talk about what I want to do, even when you just bouncing off ideas, because every idea is not a good idea, right? So every idea you want, at least now having that as an option where I can say, you know what I'm thinking about, what do you think this, and giving me a totally good perspective on what I'm trying to do is great. And it helped me cut down a lot of time, because it takes a lot of time to really write a lot of these things out. So,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because I'll sit up there, take a few minutes to write a great prompt. Might have took me 4 minutes to write this prompt, thinking about everything. I put it in there and be like, yeah, now you think about that while I go. As soon as I turn around, I take it. It's like, man. Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to take it a minute. No, it's not the right on
AI is
Yeah.
not actual AI. It's not actual artificial intelligence.
Right.
This is a program that has been programmed with the intelligence that it has been programmed with.
Exactly.
It pulls
Correct.
the information from
Correct.
via whatever question you are asking.
Yeah.
That's correct. And that's what's been really good, because I had started out on it. And with my business and some of the things I've been doing, it gives me an opportunity now that it done built, like you say, a whole perspective on Dr. Burton. She just don't know she's all in my AI and all the stuff she's done did. And all these shows, when I come up with these shows, I run it through there to talk about some of the things we talked about. It's easy now, you know, me and Dr. Burton is having a radio show, and it knows exactly some of the things that Dr. Burton is a specialist in, and it gives me topics that say you want, maybe, maybe not. I use it for current events to come up with stuff. We talk about current events.
Right.
So no, I mean, it's knowing how to use it is the most important part of it.
Can I ask you both something though? Why do you feel like it's so much anxiety when it comes to intelligence in the Black community as a whole?
Don't know how to use it.
Yeah, and I think fear and fear of how we have been positioned within this country for lack, or let me not say lack of education, but access to education. And when I say education, I don't just mean like college and that, but even as lack of knowledge and being exposed to knowledge. And as Ken said, is just the misunderstanding, but it's also the fear. The fear when you think about artificial intelligence, you think about the broad perspective, and you think about a robot taking over your life.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And so forget just as it being information at your fingertip. But this robot watching me, this
Right.
is watching me, this
Right.
smart TV watching me,
Right.
Alexa's looking at me,
Yeah.
the government watching me, all of that.
Yeah.
And so that
Yes.
creates that fear factor. And I was sitting here laughing because I was thinking about AI and just thinking about the listening audience and clarifying the AI is artificial intelligence, and not like I had to look at her name because this tells you how disconnected I am with the government right now. Is Linda McMahon, the U.S. Secretary of Education? And remember when she said A1?
Yes.
So we want to clarify to the listening audience that this is not A1 steak sauce.
Right.
But we talking about artificial intelligence, AI.
You talking about disconnect? Jeez, she called that A1.
Right.
A1. Embarrassing.
Woo.
Ooh,
That's
that's
embarrassing.
embarrassing.
And she's filthy rich. I'm talking about filthy. There's no reason for you not to know what AI is. I mean, geez, you talking about
But
that's
that speaks to the that I don't want to just jump ahead of the show, but that speaks to I was listening to Malcolm Jamal Warner's one of his podcasts, one of the shows, and they were talking about mediocrity. Might have been just a more recent one, but mediocre versus excellence when we talk about Black versus white people. And so when you think about her, she can come to the table with no skills,
really.
absolutely
And
zero
show
around the
you
Department
it's
of
on
Education.
plain display
Yes,
in
it
front of the
shows you.
whole house, in front of the whole country, in front of the whole world, and this woman don't know
See what we
nothing.
did when we
She don't
started.
know nothing. I'm sorry, that made me so
I need a camera. I need a camera on this because I need y'all to see.
That's that beauty meter that went up to 1,000 that quick. It was,
You tell me.
yeah, it was.
Bro, like, what's
Just
your
saying,
trigger you this week?
she be
You got this
percolating.
trigger
Right.
for me. Like, what you mean? This? I'm sorry, I'm flat out saying this white woman had zero. Most of the questions that they asked her, she had zero knowledge on. And she was able to secure this spot.
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
How? That's my how.
It's the money. It's the money. She came to the table with money, and that's all
Money
that was
and
looked at.
And us as Black people, we have to explain this over and over and over how hard folded our work ethic is folded 10 times, 100 times even, to even get an ounce of that recognition, to even get in these places and spaces that these people are just given with zero education and knowledge on the job that they are doing. How?
You know what, y'all?
See, that's
Last
that.
week I went off. You told me though when I came in here. She said she was having one of these days.
I did.
Last week I went off. Everybody was like, "What is wrong with you?" Now this week you done sparked her up. She told me when we started. She said, "Man, you went off last week." He said, "I might explode today," and there it is.
But you know that, and going back to talking about access and knowledge, this is one of the things that I have had to really work to maintain calmness and peace, because writing my new book is taking me down a lot of reading, and in reading it's taking me to spots of anger, spots of I can't believe we still here, I can't believe we still dealing with stuff, especially when I'm reading David Walker's Appeal, when I'm reading things on Booker T. Washington, when I'm reading Asada Shakur, when I'm reading the miseducation of the Negro again, like reading these things. I read them before specifically as a student in Black studies, but now reading them as a grown woman in the workforce and seeing things, it is a whole nother perspective that I did not have then that I have now. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me, especially when we talk about the miseducation of the Negro, these educated Blacks, quote unquote, and how they have drank the Kool-Aid. And this is what Prodigy was talking about. And it just okay. So I'm not gonna let my beard go.
Hey, y'all gonna kind of, you know, we're gonna take a quick break here, because when we come back, here we go again. We always start the show off with that ain't what we came on to talk about. But you know, we're gonna name that the opening segment. This is not what we came on to talk about. We're gonna come on after this break, and we're gonna talk about what we came on to talk about. And what we're gonna talk about today is the state of Black America, civil rights in crisis. That's what we're going to talk about. A lot of things happened over the weekend, and we're going to talk about some of those things. So after this quick break, we'll be right back with Dr. Burton. We're going to ask her a few questions to see what's on her mind, if we can trigger her. That's what it's all about. We'll see you next.
Get ready, What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on Your Mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on Your Mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on Your Mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on Your Mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on Your Mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on Your Mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. Break it down, Doc. This is where change happens. This is Equity Exchange with Dr. Heather E. Burton on 95.9. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up. Let's go.
All right, everybody, we are back, and we're going to sit down and have a little discussion on a few things that we talked about. We talked about how we've been working with AI, and AI helped me put my program together today that we're going to talk about today, people. And today's program we're going to talk about is the state of Black America, civil rights and crisis. We're going to have this segment first up. Major civil rights news right here in Cleveland. The National Urban League just kicked off their national convention here at the Huntington Convention Center, unveiling the 2025 State of Black America report. And in that report, there was some things that they declared that they called for a full-blown state of emergency for civil rights, economic equality, and democracy, calling attention to Project 2025, DEI rollbacks, voter suppression, and systemic dismantling of protections. This is not an alarmist. This is a warning. So what I wanted to have some talks a little bit about what was going on. And we knew that was one of the issues that was going on for some time. And we've been talking about that on the program. So, Doctor, I want to start off by asking you and putting this question out to everybody here is, what does the state of emergency mean specifically for Black Clevelanders, including our institutions and neighborhoods and for our economic future? And during the fact that when we talk about a state of Black America with the rollbacks of the DEI and the stuff that's happening at schools and the government seeming to be pushing back on everything that is close to that or anything similar that they're going to be semblance to trying to do anything like that. How do you see the state of Black America in Cleveland, the state of Blacks here in Cleveland?
Well, I think it's when we think about first of all, the Urban League being in town, and the fact we've got the Urban League, then we've got journalism convention coming. And so when we think about what's happening in Cleveland and these two entities coming to Cleveland, and specifically the Urban League talking about the state of Black America. And I want to also touch on the fact that there is a State of the Black America tour that's happening that Angela Rye is sponsoring.
Yes,
and so I think they're in Chicago this week. Yes, I know that's one of my favorites too, usually. And so they're in Chicago this week, I believe, but they're really talking about what it is for Black America. And I wish I had the website to talk about the plan that they're coming up with, because they're coming up with their own Project 2025. It's not Project 2025, but it's for Black America. And they're adding pieces to this document, reading pieces for us to read and be able to educate ourselves in terms of what we need to do when we're talking about Black America. It's interesting that when we talk about the state of Black America, first of all, is that many people want to first separate the fact of Black in America and erase Blackness from America. And so this is where we have to get to first, and understanding where we are as a people is that our history is shaped, or America's history is shaped in us. And so if we don't acknowledge who and what we are within this country, then we won't be able to move ahead, or we won't be able to deal. And so when we talk about us as Black people in America, we really have got to think about what's happening to us that is parallel to what happened to us historically. And that's what's happening now, is that the same things that happened pre and post Reconstruction are the same things that are taking place now when we talk about laws and policies and those things that are impacting us. When the Urban League uses language, or anyone uses language, state of emergency, we have to understand that state of emergency, just think about it. And when you have an emergency, what's an emergency? It requires a first caller response. It requires immediate action. And so because we are in a state of emergency, we need immediate action. And immediate action cannot be us sitting and waiting for midterm elections. Immediate action cannot be us sitting back and waiting for me, for example, waiting for Kenn, you to do something, waiting for Uni to do something. Me is, what am I doing in order to combat the things that are happening? Then you ask me about the institutions. First of all, we've got to accept that these institutions were not made for us. And so that's number one, is that when we talk about mainstream institutions,
we gotta get a Dr. Heather bomb. There we go. Yeah, that's what we gotta get, a Dr. Heather bomb.
Uni gonna work on it. But
go ahead.
But when we think about that, if we think about how institutions that we did not create are not made for us. And we just had this conversation where we weren't supposed to go earlier, when we're talking about this whole idea of mediocre versus excellence, is that this is why we are constantly fighting within these institutions to achieve and to succeed, because we're fighting in spaces that aren't welcoming to us, in spaces that were not made for us, spaces that don't want us. And I'm not going to go into this. I was going to go into it, but I'm not going to go into it. But when we think about the economic space that we're in, we've got to think, and I think somebody said this, and I don't know if it was a congresswoman or someone else, Chantel Brown, when she was on a couple weeks ago, is one of the realities with that big, beautiful bill is that a lot of the things that are going to happen from that bill won't happen until after midterm elections.
That's correct.
And so...
We want a better bomb.
That bomb threw me off.
And that one sound like a video bomb. I need a boom. I want a boom.
And think, but think about this. Think about if what's happening in that big, beautiful bill really does not impact us to midterm elections. By the time midterm election comes around, people are going to forget about it.
That's correct.
Until it hits them with all of the disadvantages, the disparities, the things that are coming about from that bill in terms of pushing us back as a community economically. We talking about healthcare, and we talking about education. When we look at, I just read the other day, and I didn't read details because I have to keep my mind clear of anything that says Trump. And so I try to limit, but I read something where it was talking about funding being given back to public education. First of all, if you had to take funding away, that was a problem right there. But now you got to come back and give it back. So you know that there was a problem with this. And so these are things that we are dealing with, is that we're dealing with this irrational behavior that removes funding, this irrational behavior that takes us back. I go back to thinking about the space that I worked in with higher education and how much funding we lost when it came to research and groundbreaking research because it was in our community.
Really?
Yeah, because it was in our community and it was targeted to those who are marginalized, to Black and brown, because guess what it fell under? The umbrella of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we're going to snatch your funding because it's under DEI. But who did it impact? It impacted us. Wow. A great example is a colleague of mine who was working on knee replacement. And he was doing the ethics part of this knee replacement with some other faculty at Case Western Reserve. And it was going to be a lifetime knee replacement. Well, his sample population was us. It was Black folks in the community.
Wow.
That funding was cut. And we're talking groundbreaking research that I was hoping I was going to be able to take advantage of once they went through all the trials and everything. I didn't want to be at the trial, but once they went through all the trials and everything. But this is stuff like this that folks are unaware of that's happening. Even when you talk about SNAP benefits, when you talk about Medicaid, Medicare being cut, it's going to impact larger parts of us as a community, taking us back to, as I said, post-Reconstruction, because it's going to economically cause us to fall. Now, here's the thing, Ken. We already not advanced as a community economically.
That's correct.
So we already don't have the resources that we need as a community. And so if you're pulling additional resources from us, what's going to happen to us as in a community?
Nothing left.
Nothing left.
And that's exactly where we are right now. And our communities is none the wiser for that. And that's why we look the way we look.
Yeah.
And going through the stuff that we go through. What do you think are some of the concrete ways our listeners can act to support some of these things? Uni, you got any ideas? What do you think we can do to get out here and get people more involved in some of these things?
I'm fighting back tears. Repeat the question.
Look, oh Jesus, she's on an emotional roller coaster.
I'm sorry.
She's on an emotional roller coaster.
But I think this is the reality. It's the reality, and I'm glad that Uni is sharing that, because I know this is the same thing that happens to me periodically, and it happened to me. I remember and a friend of mine told me I should have posted it, and I never did. But it was after the killing of George Floyd. And after that killing, after that murder, I was in tears and just weeping at the fact, because I read something about somebody white doing something for us as a community. And my question was, when do we become non-dependent upon white folks to push us ahead? And it just hit like a dagger. And that's not saying that there ain't some good white people. I don't want to say that. But it's like, when do we get to a place in Black America as Black folks that we don't have to be dependent upon white people to push our agenda to help us, to help us improve economically? And because of the way history has placed us within this country, that question remains at the forefront. And so it does bring about emotion. And so, Uni, thank you for being transparent here today. And especially with this. And so Ken can repeat the question, because I forgot it in my rant.
The question, she just blew my whole thing going. I was just going to ask how we could get involved. Ways that you believe that the community can get involved. I can always,
it's as simple as showing up to your ward meeting and understanding the objectives that your councilman for your ward has. All of the seats are up this year. We're going to be voting literally next month?
Yeah.
And if you don't have a simple understanding of that, please, what's going on down in DC just going to overwhelm you, and you're not going to want to deal with it.
You know what? That's very true.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, at a very bare minimum, getting involved in the community where you can make some ground level decisions and really get some stuff going is very important. And so that's why I was going to say, this radio station is very important. Having an outlet where people like myself, Dr. Burton, and others come in and get a chance to talk about everything to have an opportunity for us to vent when we want to vent, say what we want to say, and those kind of things is very important for our community. So the biggest thing is, like Uni say, showing up. Every week we show up to do this. We don't get paid for it. There's nothing in it for us. We do it because we want to really give something back to the community that we believe we have to offer. So this is part of it. Unicorn saying that going to those meetings are important. You're right. This is election season right now. So getting involved in what's going on, understanding and if you don't, this is a great time to find out, because we all good to say somebody's not doing something and they're not doing this and that, but we don't even get involved to even find out that half of the stuff we blaming them for, they couldn't do nothing with in the first place. And we just don't understand that, and I think that's one of our issues.
And if you don't want to get into politics, go to New Era Cleveland. If you want to get into the activist sector of this all, do that, but do something. Show up somewhere. Get involved somehow. Because if you don't, baby, you going to have so many more complaints in the next 5 years. I promise you, you're going to want to cry just like I do right now. You're not going to be okay.
And like you said, if you don't want to get involved in politics, there's activism, and there's also knowledge. Just learn what's happening, be aware of what's happening, and stop letting other folks convince you as to what is or what should be, and you don't have your own knowledge base. So become aware. That's another way to improve yourself, but it also improve the conversation that you're having around the dinner table. Instead of having certain conversations, we're having conversations about what's really happening in the community.
And let's move into this conversation, because this is something that really impacts the community. Cleveland's declared racism a public health crisis back in 2020. Yet activists say real progress is stalled. Community leaders point out slow-moving coalitions and lack of transparency in racism as a public health crisis. We still seeing vast racial health disparities. And I guess the question is, why and what are we missing? The resolution was a bold, symbolic, powerful, tackling crime, justice, housing, health, but community advocates say the progress has been behind closed doors and much of the promise has not changed and is kind of marginalized, haven't done much with that. So Dr. Burton, one of the things I wanted to ask you, are you really familiar with what's going on with this making racism as a public health crisis was part of the thing? And with some of these things, it seemed like there's no real push behind any of that was supposed to mean. And is that a result of the DEI crisis, you believe, or what's your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, Ken. But when racism was declared a public health crisis, I think there was the acknowledgement that it really was. And so you had people pushing back on the fact that it really was not it was not a health crisis. And so, or public crisis. And so if we take that, where we've got the pushback that this isn't what has been declared, then you've got people fighting against whatever objectives or whatever goals you're putting into play in order to try to combat the disparities that are occurring. So that's one thing. Two is that anytime you mention racism, racism causes I need a
panic.
good word. It causes panic, but it causes panic on both sides.
Right.
So it's not just white people who run from racism. It's Black people who run from racism. It's Black conservatives who run from racism and don't want to deal with the fact that racism is real. So we still got folks that we fighting against who believe racism is not real. With the hesitation, but with the limited response to this public crisis, is DEI may be one of the things, but this happened before.
That's where I was about
this
to go.
happened before DEI.
I was going to get to that.
So we can't blame everything on the rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
This is where I was going to go with it, because it did happen.
See, I knew you were trying to take me into a lead in or something.
It happened before. It happened before. So did Black folks, because we was on the roll with that. That was our thing. They were passing these resolutions. Everybody was agreeing with us. African Americans were the ones who felt that this had to be done because of all of these inequities. But it seems like somebody came along and said, y'all ought to be doing DEI. And when we all jumped into this DEI bucket, this racism as a public health crisis thing got bookshelved. It got put on the shelf. And instead of us, and I'm just being the advocate here, instead of Black folks saying, we want racism, we have not fully addressed this thing with racism as a public health crisis. But before I get in bed with all these others who's going to jump into this thing with me when I get into this DEI bucket, I'm going to make sure that we deal with this first. And I'm asking the question, do you feel, and callers and people listening, do you guys feel as if we missed the boat when we made that step? Because we were on something. We were on this thing and we were moving that. And then it got shelved because DEI came along, Doctor.
But then I also question, and so that great point. I'm not minimizing or negating the point of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And and that I action is different than resolutions. Action is different than statements. And so we can put forth resolutions and we can put forth statements, but what action is following the statement and resolution? And I say that same thing when it comes to racism and racism being declared a public health crisis, as well as anything with diversity, equity, and inclusion and aspects, is that we were quick to make statements and write resolutions, but what's the action that actually fixed the problem?
The action was ultimately what they made DEI into, because we were getting to that point. You were getting to that point where the first step, as you said, was resolution. You had to get the resolution, right?
Remember, racism being declared a public health crisis has been the last few years.
Yeah, DEI?
No, DEI is over 20-something years old. DEI is not new. DEI came about from the Bakke case of California. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is not new. It has become new to those in 2020 who jumped on board. But diversity, equity, and inclusion as a concept is not new.
Right.
It's over 20 plus years old. So I think you got to remember, I'm looking at it from
public health crisis is about 10 years old.
But I'm looking at it from a different lens when we talk about the theoretical aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion versus racism being declared a health crisis. This is what we need can we Google when because even when Cleveland declared it, Frank Jackson was in office, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It got to be over 10 years ago. Easily. Chantel Brown, I remember
it ain't been. I don't think it's been 10 years.
She did it when she was she did it for county
not when
council.
It actually was declared, and when it got momentum.
It was about 10 years ago, easily, or over 10 years. Latif, what's happening with the comments? What they saying? If anybody on that,
but I think I still go back to
racism as a public health crisis came first. We were in a good state of that, and then as a result of that, DEI started coming after the George Floyd incident happened. Then DEI became a huge thing because everybody started jumping on. George Floyd isn't 10 years old.
No.
So George Floyd, that's what I'm saying.
5.
So George Floyd came on. Everybody started pumping.
But I think
DEI.
that's the difference, and that's what we have to. That's what we have to separate. DEI.
Oh, here you go with your thing again.
Project New York, June 2020 was. When they did the state of black women.
That's almost 25 years ago.
Okay,
No, 2020 is 5 years ago.
Yes, only 5 years ago. And that's when the ladies of Enlightening Solutions decided to do Project Noir to understand what was happening in Northeast Ohio when it comes to Black women and what they are experiencing, why this is rated the most racist city in the U.S. And that Cleveland officially declared racism a public health crisis on June 3rd, 2020, when the Cleveland City Council unanimously...
That's what I said. It was all the same. It was all around the same time. So it wasn't... in Cleveland, it was not 10 years ago when it was declared a public... So all of that is 2020. So you got this jump on the bandwagon of diversity, equity, inclusion 2020. You got Project Noir 2020 when they did the state of Black women within Cleveland. You've got Cleveland declaring it a public health crisis in 2020. So, and that all came around that same time of that racial awakening because of police abuse of power and police brutality.
So when did Case kick in his DEI program?
20 years ago.
So Case had his DEI
Well,
program.
Case had now probably in terms of the inaugural person over 15 years ago.
So for 15 years, they had a DEI program.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's cool. I'm fine.
But that's why I was saying diversity, equity, and inclusion isn't, because see, where we got to understand is where diversity, equity, and inclusion came from in higher education. And then the corporate and other people started jumping on the bandwagon of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But diversity, equity, and inclusion came about from the Office of Minority Affairs.
So you don't see no simulation to those at all. You're saying that my thing was, I thought, again, that using the racism as a public health crisis should have been a route we should have took, but you're saying we were already into DEI. Well, then,
yeah, we were into DEI when that happened. What I'm saying is that we should have stayed focused on racism as a public health crisis. Okay. I'm not minimizing that focus shouldn't have been there. But again, what I'm saying is just with everything else that happened in 2020, we put resolutions and statements in place, but we had no action to follow the resolutions and the statements.
I understand. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to ask Dr. Burton.
I'm tired today.
We're going to ask Dr. Burton what's going on next and anything else. We got a few comments. We're going to see what's happening on the interwebs when we get back. So everybody stay tuned. You got any questions? Send them now.
What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. What's on your mind Tuesdays? Call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on your mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on your mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on your mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show. For What's on your mind Tuesdays, call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95 FM, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media. Let's go. Comment and connect on 95.9 FM WOVU, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media.
All right. We're back with Dr. Heather Burton. Got Unicorn in the house. We got DJ True over here today, and we're talking about a whole bunch of different topics. We really, the whole concept of what we're getting into today is talking about African American crisis here, Black America in 2025, and some of the crisis that was going on. One of the big crises that took place, and we all took a real step back last week. We talked a little bit about Michael Jamal Warner and his passing and his sudden passing and things that took place. And he had a podcast, and one of the things he talked about on his podcast was how Black folks identify with excellence and how that whole piece come together and some of the things that we do, and that Warner embraced the instincts on this complexity. Black identify isn't a monolithic. He rejects stereotypes and build platforms to honor culture nuances from spoken words and storytelling, candid storytelling. Dr. Burton, Warner said that Black survival is in itself is Black excellence. How do we elevate the survival without framing it as only a measurement of excellence? Yeah, that's what that doggone chat GPT do for you. See, it gives you these crazy ass. Excuse me, I'm on the radio. I thought I was on my podcast. Right. It gives you old crazy questions. So I guess basically what he was trying to say is, how do we look at Black excellence and how do we celebrate Black excellence without trying to put ourselves in a box?
Well, I actually kind of listened to Malcolm Jamal Warner. And the podcast, and one of the things with, I think, his podcast title is, what is it?
Title of his podcast
I'm looking.
is
It's Not All Hood.
It's
Not All Hood.
Yep.
And so in that, you mentioned this in your statement with Black people not being monolithic. And so as Black people, we are not all one. We are not all the same. We don't all have the same issues. And so that's recognizing that when we talk about Black excellence. And one of the things that he was speaking of when he talked about this idea of Black excellence is that he was skewed with putting Black in front of excellence because he felt that then it put it into a category. But what he realized, because he was using an example of Black excellence, Black joy, and why does it have to be Black when it's excellence or joy? But then he said he had to readjust. And I think one of the things to point out is that Malcolm Jamal Warner in one of his earlier podcast shows also talked about the fact that he has a tendency to be judgmental. And so he said this was a space that he knew he would, have to be challenged on some of his views being judgmental. And so, but with the Black excellence, what he began to recognize was that the Black was important to the concept of excellence and joy, because when you don't use Black in terms of America, then you negate the contributions and the history that Black people have added to America. And so it's not putting Black people in a box, but it's understanding that me saying I'm Black in America is versus me being American. Now that takes me to W.E. Du Bois' whole idea of double consciousness. But and so with that, with Black excellence, is that's the thing that we have to recognize, is that being Black is a different walk than being white and in America. And so when we talked about this earlier, and this all was around that same concept of the excellence and what Black people have to do to produce excellence. And so it's not a matter of making it this monolithic category of being Black and being excellent, but it's an idea of we are excellent because look at what we have achieved within America. Look at what we have accomplished. Look at who we are. And if we, that's the thing. And I don't want to get Uni started, but that's the thing. If we only were recognized for what we have contributed to this country and what we have contributed, what we still have to contribute, and what we will contribute, we would be, white people would be much further. So forget us. We would be.
So is it safe to say that if we did that, we wouldn't need to say Black excellence?
No, we always need to say Black excellence, because not saying Black excellence negates or minimizes the fact of who we are within the context of this country.
What about white excellence?
Whiteness is around us. The reality is whiteness is a normalized view. Wait.
But my question is this though, because I understand
white is a normalized view.
No, that's a normalized view, and I get that. But is there safe to say that someone could say if white man say, "Hey, this is white excellence"?
But I don't think white is excellent.
Oh. Okay.
And let me say, I know. Let me say, and let me say why.
Okay.
Because when we talk about whiteness is normalized mediocrity. And so and it's not to put any white person down. I'm not trying to put them down, but because of the state of the world, the state of America, and what we've had to do as Black people within America, we've always had to go over and beyond and be excellent. And so when we talk about whiteness is here's white, and I don't know if I can be seen on, here's whiteness. It's this normalized line.
Right.
That's whiteness. But blackness, in order to achieve, accomplish, or do, is up here. That's why it becomes excellent.
Wow. And and listen, I don't disagree.
I know you don't.
I'm just sitting there like I never saw it explained that way, and I really get it that way. But I'm going to push back a little bit.
Okay.
And on that, I just want to ask. So being excellent is just the normal. That's
for black
it.
people?
For black people.
No, because we're not monolithic. So not all blackness is excellent.
Can you be white and get black excellence?
No. You can't be white and get black nothing. And I'm gonna give you an example of something. And I had to, and I won't say names.
Can black do something that white folks? Yeah, there's a lot that they can do. Right?
Yeah, black
I can go a whole list of that.
We can do a whole lot. Right. But I'm gonna give you an example. And I had to share with someone because I happen to be on social media. And speaking of AI, and there's a white woman who is, and I want to use the words carefully, is a supporter in terms of the black community. And in terms of trying to learn, understand, and push forward. And so this AI produced a picture. And in the picture, it showed her what she would look like. And it produced her as being a black woman. Now, me as a black woman was like,
right.
We not posting this. So I happened to see this on this page. And I actually had a conversation with her about that. Because the reality is, I don't care. It goes again to that whole what's on the inside where people say they don't see color. The reality is you're still a white woman. And for you to post a picture of what you should look like if all of your caring and everything about black people was for you to be a black woman, it's offensive to me because you'll never be a black woman. And I will never be a white woman. And there's nothing I can do to make me a white woman, just as there's nothing you can do to change that you walk in the privilege of being a white woman.
So she can't even play with her AI.
No playing. She can play with it and share with her family. She can share with her family, but don't post that on social media. And here was the thing, because I know me. So I showed it to other black women to see their response. And their response was the same as mine. So, because I can be a little tough and rough.
Black women, y'all be tough and rough on all that. Y'all tough and rough on each other. So
I heard somebody talking today. Speaking of Malcolm Jamal Warner on his last podcast, that aired, where the comedian, I can't think of her name now, was on there. I think it's the most recent show. She was on there, and she was just talking about how when she found out that Jamie Foxx was dating Katie Holmes, she cried.
Wow.
Because he was dating a white woman. Because in her mind, black men should be dating black men should be dating black. No, black men should be dating black women. And so in that, she said she shed tears with
her and Dr. Umar.
Yep. But what's crazy is when you start reading, like I was telling you, I was reading David Walker's Appeal. And he talks about that in the Appeal about black men and white women and how I can't even think of the exact language. I'm gonna bring it next week, but of what that's like towards the black community when you date.
Well, they say economically it affects in a whole lot of different ways.
Yeah,
it does. Anything live from the comments, Latif?
Yes.
Get in your mic.
Our latest comment, because we didn't have some comments jumping off. I've been putting them up online, but Trinidad or Trini said that's the bar. So I guess they were complimenting Dr. Burton on what she was saying. Then going back up, turnout on September 9th in Cleveland is expected to be 15 to 10%. That's the reality unless you prove us wrong. The first step is showing up. Prove me wrong, go vote. And that was Eugene Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And then he also said there are parts of that bill that will definitely help people, especially when it comes to taxes, increasing your standard deduction, which means more savings for you.
That's good to know, Eugene Miller.
Mayor Khalil. He wrote something. He's wrote, it can be very useful to work with a grant writer or a grant writing firm if you can swing it. We have worked with Millennial Strategies. I think that's Millennial Strategies for grant writing. They more than what we pay for. Yeah, he said they did a good job. So that was another one. Had a lot of little comments. We get in a lot of different folks commenting on us. We putting all your comments up on the line. If you get them up. Go ahead, Doctor.
No, I was going to say, I think a great conversation to have one day is based on what Eugene Miller said about the 15% of voters, of those turning out, and having that conversation as why people don't vote, but finding non-voters. Being bold enough to step up to the table and say that they don't vote and why they don't vote, and reaching that audience. I would be curious to have a mass, not a town hall with voters, because when you do that, then you're going to get just arguments in the space.
That's correct.
But getting a room full of folks who don't vote and having a conversation with the non-voters and finding out why are you disconnected from the voting system.
It's not convenient enough, I bet you.
Now, Ben Clausen said DEI implementation is new. The idea was developed in the 70s as a social communist theory, whatever that is. And then he also said,
I don't have no comment on that one.
That's what Ben. That's what
That's
he said.
Ben.
Taught to react to the cops instead of conform. George Floyd wasn't beaten like Rodney King, I guess. George was pacing around the store for an hour. He was on drugs and could still breathe.
Well, I guess he's trying to say it was different than when we did Rodney King. Rodney King got beat up by the police. There's people who still don't believe that George Floyd, that was not done right. They believe that, he died from drug overdose or some things of that nature.
They had his, didn't everybody see they had his knee?
Right, knee on his,
no, they still
his
believe
neck.
They still believe
and
it.
they talk about,
There's
but they
a lot-
talk
there's
about that
people who
form.
believe
They
that.
even talk about that form of, what do you call it? Not retaliation, but what form of police force?
Oh, yeah.
Form of, and I don't think that's the right words, but form of police force that is not supposed to be used. So when we talking about,
that's
police
that-
abuse of power,
that
you
training
using
they
something in
got.
training that you're not
Yes.
supposed to be even using.
We got Troy Motlin in today. He's going to wind us up out of here. How much time we got left, Mr. Motlin? We got 1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute. Dr. Burton, I'm going to let you say, you got something you want to end the show with?
Yeah, this has been a great conversation today. I think it's one of those is that we do have to think about, and I want to go back to state of emergency. And as we think about what it means to be in a state of emergency, and I said this earlier, it's immediate action. And so if you consider yourself part of the community, which I hope you all consider yourself part of the community, however you want to define community, but that you take action because there is an emergency.
This is Strategic Moves radio show with Dr. Heather Burton and Kenn Dowell every Tuesday right here on WOVU. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for everybody who's leaving comments. We're getting more and more every week. So we will review your comments and we'll get some of these and talk about them next week as well. So until next time, peace.
Support for WOVU comes from
What's
Cuyahoga
up, Cleveland?
Community
It's
College
time to
and
turn up the
support by
conversation.
Central Office.
Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell Radio Show for What's on Your Mind Tuesdays. Call in, comment, and connect on WOVU 95.